Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming today. Radovan Karadzic is now in the custody of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. After 13 years at large, he arrived in the Netherlands early this morning and has been transferred to the United Nations Detention Center in The Hague. His initial appearance before one of the tribunal judges will take place tomorrow afternoon. The arrest of Radovan Karadzic is immensely important for the victims who had to wait far too long for this day. It's also very important for international justice because it clearly demonstrates that there is no alternative to the arrest of war criminals and that there can be no safe haven for fugitives. Radovan Karadzic, the former leader of Bosnian Serbs, is here to stand trials for crimes committed during the conflict in Bosnia and Herzegovina in the early 90s. He is indicted for the most serious crimes under international law: genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. He is charged with the ethnic cleansing of non-Serbs from large areas of Bosnia and Herzegovina through the commission of the crimes alleged in the indictment. He is charged with a campaign of shelling and sniping to terrorize the civilian population in Sarajevo. He is charged with a genocide committed in Srebrenica in July 1995, when close to 8,000 Muslim Bosnian men and boys were killed. In addition, he is charged with taking UN peacekeepers and military observers hostage. The prosecution intends to proceed against Radovan Karadzic on these charges. My team is currently reviewing the indictment, which was last amended in 2000. We will ensure that it reflects the current case law, facts already established by the court, and evidence collected over the past 8 years. It will be a complex trial, like other cases before this tribunal. In order to prove these serious crimes, the prosecution will have to present a significant amount of evidence, including witness statements. We intend to present the prosecution case in the most efficient manner while respecting the rights of the defense. Before concluding, I would like to say that the Serbian authorities deserve full credit for the apprehension of Radovan Karadzic. This arrest is a major achievement of Serbia's cooperation with the tribunal. I make special mention of the National Security Council, of the so-called action team in charge of tracking fugitives, and the office of my colleague, the war crimes prosecutor in Belgrade. I look forward to meeting the authorities in Belgrade in the coming weeks and hope that Serbia's cooperation will lead to the arrest of the two remaining fugitives, Ratko Mladic and Goran Hadžić. Without these arrests, we cannot complete our mandate. To achieve this, we will also continue to rely on the support of the international community and the support of non-governmental organizations. Finally, I would like to thank all of you journalists for your support, for the significant role you play in informing the public about the tribunal activities. By doing so, you are promoting the principles of international justice. I very much hope that your interest in the work of the tribunal will remain high. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm prepared to take a few questions, of course.
I would just please ask you to wait for the microphone so that we can hear you and to ask your questions in English or French. Thank you very much.
Hello,
Cyril Vanier, France 24. Your office has explained that proving genocide is particularly difficult because you have to prove intent. How confident are you that you will be able indeed to indict Mr. Karadžić with genocide?
This crime has been foreseen in the indictment. It will be up, at the end of the day, it will be up to the judges to decide if the evidence the prosecution will present is sufficient. The Office of the Prosecutor has collected in the last years an important number of additional evidence, and we will present all this evidence, are strongly being in favor, of course, of the conviction in relation to this crime, but at the end of the day, it will be up to the judges to decide.
Thomas Verfus, ANP, Dutch National News Agency. The Netherlands has taken a very firm position over the past months as far as the cooperation of the European Union with Serbia is concerned. And there have been concerns in the Dutch public and political debate that the Netherlands could get a bit isolated because of that strong position it takes. So this is a reason why I wonder if, in your analysis of the events that led up to the eventual arrest of Radovan Karadžić, the Dutch position and the Dutch support have been an important contribution to achieve this.
Yeah. Of course, the Dutch authorities have taken strong position in support of the tribunal. But as I have said on other occasions, it's really not up to the prosecutor to speak about political questions like what kind of position the European Union has to take or not to take. Having said that, we are very grateful for the support the European Union and the international community has taken in the past.
Reed Stevenson from Reuters. I have two very quick questions. The first one is, have you taken into consideration the length of the Milosevic trial and any lessons that might be drawn from that, as you have mentioned that you wanted to conduct this trial in an efficient manner? And the second question is, how will this affect your position on the level of cooperation by Serbia with regards to its cooperation with the EU?
Yeah. In relation to the first question, lessons learned. Of course, like all institutions, this institution also learns from the past. As I mentioned already, we have started the process of reviewing the indictment, making sure that the case law will be respected and that crimes which already have been proven and elements and evidence already presented will be taken into consideration. So we intend to present this case in the most efficient manner and of course learning from the past experience. In relation to cooperation, as I said today, it's very important to recognize the work done by the Serbian authorities. And as I said, in the last days, it's really a milestone in the cooperation with the tribunal. The Office of the Prosecutor is reporting every 6 months to the Security Council about the level of cooperation. The last report was in June. Next report is due in December. In June, we have presented the areas where improvement is still possible. And it's obvious that with the arrest of Mr. Subjanin and Mr. Karadžić, that an important improvement is there in relation to search for the fugitives. But as I said, there are still 2 other fugitives at large, and I'm very much looking forward to cooperate with the Serbian authorities in this regard. So there's no new assessment planned in the coming days. I'm planning to go to Belgrade probably early September, and where I will for the first time meet with the new government and my colleagues in order to evaluate the next steps of cooperation.
Marley Simons of the New York Times. Mr. Prosecutor, when do you expect the trial could start, and how much time does the prosecution need to present its case?
It's too early to answer these questions. It will be up to the tribunal to determine the trial schedule. But of course it will take some months before the prosecution and the defense will be ready to start this trial. As I said, we already started reviewing the indictment and hope to present this case as efficient as possible. But I'm not in a position today to measure it in terms of months.
Stephanie Kennedy from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Slobodan Milosevic represented himself, and the state of his health meant that the tribunal could only sit 3 half days a week. Are you aware if Radovan Karadžić is going to represent himself, and what is the state of his health, and will any of that affect the trial?
Yeah. It will probably be necessary to wait for the initial appearance and for positions he will take in this regard. It will be at the end of the day up to the judges to decide if they allow self-representation or not. As far as the prosecution is concerned, already in the past we have objected and mentioned the difficulties with going with self-representation, especially if you speak about very complex cases, very complex legal questions where legal counsel is, in our mind, a very important advantage.
Michael Steen from the Financial Times. I was wondering, is the end of the mandate of the ICTY in 2011 a factor in how this case progresses, and what would happen if you got close to 2011? Is there a mechanism for extending it? Thank you.
Yeah, it will be up to the Security Council to decide if the mandate can be extended or not. As far as we are concerned, we are respecting as much as possible the objectives of the completion strategy, but I think it goes without saying that this important case will have influence of the scheduling of trials. But I'm not in a position today to give details about the concrete impact.
BBC Russian service. Could you please comment on any, if any at all, special security measures that have been taken in the prison? It was known, for example, that Milosevic was allowed to receive his meals from a Balkan restaurant in The Hague. Would Mr. Karadzic enjoy the same liberties, or have after the review and the events of Milosevic's stay in the prison, have the situation been reviewed?
We would like to clarify that I'm only speaking on behalf of the Office of the Prosecutor, and questions you are raising are not under our responsibility, as it was the case for the transfer today.
Thomas Miglierina, Swiss Radio Television. You said you need time to study the case, but can you already tell us if you plan to concentrate on those 2 or 3 things that you're actually confident you can prove in court? Or is there a risk that this becomes some kind of a monster trial like the Milosevic trial was? Thank you.
No, I have mentioned the crimes already foreseen in the indictment. We intend, of course, to use the pre-trial phase to make a certain number of motions to the judges in order to have written evidence accepted, to have adjudicated facts accepted, which means that we hope that the amount of evidence to be presented in the court therefore will be reduced. It will be a complex trial, as I said. Do not expect a trial taking only a very short period. But we are fully aware of the importance to be efficient in this regard. The tribunal has, of course, learned from past experiences, and in terms of trial management, I'm confident.
Robert Marquand, I'm with the Christian Science Monitor. I wonder if you could say something about, if you say this is going to be a complex trial, could you explain why it's complex? What, just for those of us who are not legal folk, what makes it complex? Is it complex mainly in terms of logistics, finding witnesses who are coming, or is it complex legally? Just a little bit of unpacking, if you will, why that's the case. And the follow-up is could you tell something about, you've been reviewing this trial, this indictment. Could you tell us something about what that means, what you've actually been looking at as you're reviewing it, substantively, that is?
Yeah, it's a very complex, a very long question, and of course I do not intend to give a full presentation on everything which has to be done in the coming days and weeks. It is obvious that you speak about crimes of this magnitude, that you have on one hand the important elements in relation to the crimes as such, the crime base, where we are relying on documentary evidence, where we're relying on audiovisual material, where we're relying on witness statements, which analyze also always the question of cooperation with witnesses, witness protection. So there are many questions in relation to the facts behind the crimes. Then, of course, you have to prove the relation between the crimes and the persons you are prosecuting, in this concrete case, Mr. Karadzic. So to prove the linkage and the command and control. Those are some of the elements which, of course, will take some time and will make this kind of cases complex.
Mirko Klarin, Sense News Agency. Are you thinking about possible joinder of Mr. Karadžić with, let's say, some other case which is waiting on trial here, Bosnian Serb leadership, or maybe with with General Mladić, because he was indicted together with Mladić. And if Mladić comes in some reasonable time, are you going to ask for joinder?
Yeah, there also, the position of the Office of the Prosecutor is that we will not join this case with one of the existing cases. But it is clear that if General Mladić is arrested in the near future, that this will be a serious option. Take a last question, perhaps? Please.
Does your personal style has anything to do with the fast way that Karadzic was caught now, after 6 months of being here?
I don't think so. I think the arrest is really the result of teamwork at many different levels. But as I already said, the Serbian authorities really deserve credit for this arrest. Okay. Last one.
Reed Stevenson from Reuters again. Just a simple question. How confident are you that you can convict Mr. Karadzic?
You know, I'm indeed only for the last 6 months working in this organization, and it's a privilege for me to work with such dedicated and qualified staff. So I have no doubt that our team in the Office of the Prosecutor will do everything in their power to make this case successful and to make sure that at the end of the day, victims will see justice being done. So we will do everything we can, but at the end of the day, it will be up to the judges to take their decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.